90%. That is the share of wheat imports into the United States that come from Canada. Each year, the United States imports roughly 120 million bushels of wheat, and almost all of it arrives from north of the border. This number is not debated. It appears in trade records, customs filings, and industry data. When Donald Trump demanded wheat concessions from Canada, he believed tariffs would give him leverage. He believed the size of the U.S. market would force Canada to comply. He believed Canada needed American buyers more than Americans needed Canadian wheat. Mark Carney saw the same number and drew a different conclusion. If one country supplies most of your imports, that country already holds power. No threats are required. No retaliation is necessary. The leverage exists before any demand is made. This story is not about emotion or insults. It is about supply chains, dependency, and math. And it begins with a number Trump underestimated. Trump's approach was based on a simple idea: wheat is easy to replace. He assumed American buyers could switch suppliers quickly. He assumed domestic wheat production could fill any gap. He assumed tariffs would pressure Canada more than they would hurt the United States. Trade data shows the opposite. Canada exports wheat to more than 60 countries. The United States buys less than 1/5 of Canada's total wheat exports. Losing part of that market would reduce revenue, but it would not collapse Canada's wheat industry. For the United States, the situation is reversed. American flour mills depend on specific Canadian wheat varieties. These varieties cannot be replaced easily. They are needed to meet quality standards for bread, pasta, and baked goods. Trump treated wheat like steel or lumber. Wheat is different. That misunderstanding shaped the outcome from the very start. Canada did not answer the demand with threats. There were no emergency summits, no angry speeches, no public trade war language. Instead, Canadian exporters adjusted their plans. Shipments that were once meant for U.S. buyers were quietly redirected to other markets. Rail schedules were changed. Export terminals updated their destination lists. Canada produces about 36 million tons of wheat each year. Only a small share was tied to U.S. buyers. Redirecting that supply did not require new land or new harvests. It required new contracts. This was not a political move. It was a business decision. When one buyer becomes unpredictable, exporters reduce risk. That shift often happens silently, long before the public notices any change. Wheat is not a single product. Different types of wheat serve different roles in food production. Canadian spring wheat has high protein levels. It is essential for making strong bread flour. Canadian durum wheat is used to make pasta. Many U.S. flour mills are designed around these inputs. Their machines, blending systems, and recipes assume Canadian wheat will arrive regularly. Switching suppliers is not simple. Planting more wheat does not solve the problem. High-protein spring wheat depends on climate, soil, and long breeding cycles. It cannot be copied quickly by changing seeds. Supply chains are engineered systems. Tariffs do not make them flexible. They only raise costs and create strain. The tariff hit importers first. A 25% charge added sudden costs that mills had not planned for. Stopping imports was not realistic, so companies paid more. Those higher costs moved forward. Flour prices increased. Bakeries faced higher expenses. Grocery stores raised prices. Consumers noticed within weeks. There was no wheat shortage overall. There was a shortage of the right wheat at a workable price. This is how trade policy reaches daily life, not through headlines, but through grocery receipts. The price increase was not political. It was mechanical. As U.S. buyers struggled, Canada expanded exports elsewhere. Mexico increased wheat purchases using rail routes that run directly through the United States. Canadian wheat crossed American territory without stopping for American buyers. China reopened access to Canadian agricultural products. Wheat became part of that expansion. South America followed. Brazil and neighboring countries viewed Canadian wheat as a premium product with reliable quality. These shifts were not dramatic. They were practical business moves. Once new trade routes are established and contracts are signed, supply flows settle into new patterns. Those patterns are difficult to reverse. What started as a wheat dispute turned into a broader strategy shift. Canada accelerated plans to reduce reliance on a single market. Diversification became urgent. Rail links mattered more. Port access became critical. Trade missions expanded beyond North America. This was not about punishment. It was about stability. Exporters prefer buyers who offer predictable rules. Once new markets prove reliable, returning to unstable partners becomes less attractive over time. As food prices rose, public language softened. Tariffs remained officially in place, but enforcement became quieter. Shipments moved with fewer delays. There was no public announcement. There rarely is when a policy quietly fails. Industry groups raised concerns behind closed doors. Lawmakers asked for exemptions and relief. But contracts had already shifted. Trust had already weakened. Markets adjust faster than politics, and they remember instability longer. Food is different from other commodities. People can delay buying cars or electronics. They cannot delay eating. When food costs rise, pressure builds quickly. Public patience declines. Countries that rely on imports for key food inputs carry hidden risk. That risk becomes leverage for suppliers, even without direct confrontation. Canada did not block wheat exports. It simply sold them elsewhere. That difference matters. Leverage does not always look aggressive. Sometimes it looks like choice. This story ends quietly. No celebration, no victory speeches. Canada adapted. The United States absorbed higher costs. The outcome was shaped by supply chains, not personalities, by logistics, not rhetoric. You do not threaten suppliers you depend on. You do not assume markets will wait. And you do not gamble with food systems built over decades. Wheat continued to move, just not where it once did. And that quiet shift explains more than any headline ever could.